In today's video, we're going to be taking a look at a nor'easter that's going to be heading up the coast, bringing some stormy and windy conditions here for the eastern seaboard, a lot of snowfall out west, and also a deep Arctic blast on the way down the road that's going to bring even colder conditions than it has been. Now, before we get into things, be sure to check out Prestige Weather in the description and pinned comment down below. That is our weather consulting company where we do weather consulting for individuals and businesses alike. And we also, as a bonus, do early access to a lot of our direct weather videos over there. You can check it out for only $5 a month in the description and pinned comment down below, and your top right corner of your screen, of course. Let's get into things, and we're taking a look here. We're just going to dive past today. It's a little late in the day already. And you can see that by tomorrow afternoon, we will have this nor'easter pretty well offshore, a 996 millibar low pressure center. You can see this is bringing some rainfall here to the southeastern coast. Not too much, though. We do have a bit of a cold front here that is extending down the eastern seaboard, and this is bringing some mild cold air, I would say, to the eastern states, while we do see some ridging out west. But this is pretty mediocre, to say the least, compared to what we have been seeing, and of course what we're expecting to see. Let's keep this going. I'm going to take us towards Saturday afternoon, and this is when this nor'easter is going to become a little bit more impactful. 984 millibar low pressure center, bringing some snowfall here to New England, especially the further inland and the further north you are. New Hampshire, Maine, and other states as well potentially going to be seeing some snowfall from this one, while the jet stream is pretty much doing a pretty sharp ridge and a moderate trough in the east. I would say that's not too south-based, but for the northeast, the Great Lakes and New England, this is actually causing some colder air up there than what's typical. By the time we're reaching Sunday on November 19th here, you can see that we do have some snowfall taking place now for the Cascades into the Rockies here. So take a look at that. We do see this for states like Washington, Oregon, Nevada, Idaho, Montana, Wyoming, Utah, Colorado, and as far southward as Arizona and New Mexico, even seeing some snowfall in those mountaintop locations. So this is going to be really great skiing conditions for a lot of the skiers out there. We do see a 996 millibar low pressure center developing here over areas in Texas, Oklahoma, and Kansas. This is sparking some showery and even thunderstorm activity here along this pocket of storminess that we can see to the east of that low, and this is going to cause some impactful situations. Of course, it isn't March, April, or May or anything, but we could see some pretty potent storms for that area, especially when considering the time of year. It could be a little extra potent for what we're in right now, which is definitely not that heart of severe weather season. We do see some snow showers left over after all of this is said and done for states like Pennsylvania, New York, Vermont, New Hampshire, and Maine. So some folks may be seeing their first flakes, is what I would say. By the time we reach around Monday, November 20th, we can see that we do have 1,002 millibar low pressure center left over here for the southern plains. And we can see this is actually bringing pretty wide spread impacts here. We can see for states like Colorado, Nebraska, Kansas, and into Texas and Oklahoma. We can see as far eastward as Missouri into Illinois, Kentucky, and Tennessee. And then further south for Arkansas, Mississippi, Alabama, Louisiana, and down through Texas, we're seeing these showers and thunderstorms prevailing. Even snowfall on that very western end there for the southern Rockies. So we are seeing very, very far spread impacts at this point. By the time we reach Tuesday afternoon here, we can see that 996 millibar low pressure center left over for states like Ohio and Pennsylvania. This is bringing very, very far stretching impacts. Once again, we see all the way up and down the eastern seaboard. We could see for areas in New York, Michigan, seeing some snowfall. That's pretty interesting. But once we look a little bit westward, we see a massive Arctic blast. Okay, and the heart of this one is going to be for this area here where the most potent cold air is. But we're seeing cold air spread around this one very far to the south, and it's only going to continue to dive eastward. We're going to be watching for some potential lake effect snowfall after this one's said and done too. We do see an interesting dynamic here that I want to discuss. The primary low at this point is inland on the very front of that cold front. But we do see a secondary low taking over here, 1,004 offshore of the East Coast. And as this one starts to get more energy from the primary low, we begin to see more cold air able to really skip its way in I think that's a good way to put it because it really just slides in really quickly once that low pressure transfers. And we do actually see some snowfall taking place for the Northeast here in pretty heavy amounts actually as well. For the White Mountains of New Hampshire, take that eastward into Maine, that is primarily where we're seeing snowfall. Let's talk about that lake effect though, because I think this is going to be really impactful. We see that this very deep Arctic air takes place, and now the heart of it is now over the upper Midwest and Great Lakes. And for this early in the season, around the 20th of November, this is pretty darn cold. I'm not going to lie. This is a very, very deep Arctic blast. And usually this time of year, we would still see the heart of the cold in these cases be up here for Canada. No, this one is in the upper Midwest, kind of through the Great Lakes and even into the Ohio Valley. And as a result of this extremely potent cold air heading into the Great Lakes where the water is much warmer, we do actually end up seeing some lake effect snowfall, and pretty heavy amounts of it to be exact actually. And this cold kind of sticks around, as you can see. This does not look to end anytime soon. We actually get through the end of the model run here on November 26th, and we still have very potent cold air for a lot of the north central states here and the eastern states as well. So very, very impactful and very brutal cold on the way according to this European model. Let's go over the total precipitation. We can see things are fairly active. I'd say average amounts out west, and I'd say slightly above average amounts here in the east. Nothing too crazy. We're not seeing any like reds into the browns or anything, but we are seeing a good 1 to 2 inches of precipitation total here in the east, which is going to be fairly active over the next 10 days. As far as total snowfall is concerned, we will zoom into the Great Lakes in just a moment, so ignore that for a minute. We're going to dive into that. But out west, we do see anywhere in the gray seeing a dusting, if anything, and that's very widespread. Blues 2 to 6 inches of snowfall, purple 6 to 10, and then your pinks even 10 to 20. And we see that throughout the Sierra Nevadas in California, up through the Cascades of the Northwest, and into the Rockies there as well. So very, very widespread mountainous snowfall out west. As promised, let's zoom into the Great Lakes here. And I just want to walk you through this. So we see some snow showers coming through around the 20th. It's really this phase here. Once we see the 22nd roll by, look at this. We see a lot of it, especially off of Lake Erie there. We see a ton of snowfall. Okay, so we are seeing the pinks, which again is 10 to 20, but the pastel blues as well here. That is going to be 20 inches plus. So certainly a ton of snowfall. And actually, I want to see if I can even dive into the state of New York here, which will give us a nice view here if we can. So let's go ahead and walk us through this. Let me take this a little bit further, and we see those extremely heavy amounts here. Let's see what the max says. So 27.7 there on the bottom right hand corner of your screen. That is the maximum snowfall at any point in this frame that we see here, and that's somewhere in here, likely in this pocket around here where we're seeing the peak amounts over 2 feet. So keep in mind, this isn't snow depth, this is snowfall, so a lot of this won't accumulate. And in this case, it might be 75% plus of this accumulating because this is a whole lot of snowfall. But you know how it is. The first 2, 3, 4 inches of snowfall that falls, you don't get that much of that to accumulate, especially because of milting and other factors. But once it's sticking, it really starts to get going. So that's why we sometimes subtract a little bit of this snowfall. But in a case like this, where you're expecting 20 plus inches of snowfall to come out of the sky, you do expect to see most of that end up accumulating. Now, let's go ahead and talk about those temperatures, because again, things are going to be quite cold. We actually see a lot of warmth before the cold, and then we get this mini cool down here around the 19th, 20th time frame, which will be Sunday into Monday. And then we get another warm up here very briefly around kind of Tuesday, Wednesday time frame. But look at that potent Arctic blast just in time for Thanksgiving. There on Thursday the 23rd into Friday the 24th, we're seeing brutal Thanksgiving cold air here. The greens anywhere in here is 10 to 15 degrees below normal, but you see this purplish blue here taking place around the Appalachian Mountains and the Smoky Mountains as well. That is going to be 15 to 25 degrees below what's normal. So if your average temperature, just as an example, was 100, you'd be at about 75 degrees. Certainly a huge difference there. If your average temperature was 50, you're at 25 degrees. So certainly a very, very far swing from what's typical. And even you would be able to walk outside and notice this change. This is a significant departure from what's typical. And just like we mentioned earlier, look at this. We see the cold air really hanging around through the end of the model run here, through the 26th of November, getting us through into the end of the weekend there. So we're going to have to wait and see what that next week holds after the week of Thanksgiving for the 27th, 28th, 29th time frame. Only time will tell, but for now, we're expecting very deep cold air starting around the 20th and lasting at least after the 25th. We'll have to wait and see what ends up coming of that. Anyway, be sure to subscribe. We do upload every single day. You can even hit the bell icon for daily notifications when we upload so you never miss one. Be sure to like the video if you did enjoy it. Leave a comment down below, and I'll see you guys in the next video.